60 to 80 degrees. That is not a typo, and that is not a worst-case scenario. That is what the European model is showing as a potential temperature swing inside a single week in March. From 30 to 40 degrees above normal right now to 30 to 40 degrees below. Normal around the 12th and 13th. And the forecaster who ran those numbers said out loud that he has never seen anything like it in years of doing this. And what makes that even harder to sit with is this. The Storm Prediction Center has already posted a 30% probability area for Friday, March 6th, and 30% is the highest number they post on the extended range, which means forecasters are already running out of ceiling before the event has even arrived, and Friday is still 2 days away. And if Friday's setup were not enough, Saturday is showing a severe weather footprint that stretches across 14 states: Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, all on the same map, and a lot of that threat extends into the overnight hours, which is the kind of timing that historically catches the most people off guard. Which piece of all of this actually lands on your doorstep this week depends entirely on your zip code, so let's break it down city by city and day by day starting right now. Beginning with what Wednesday is already putting on the table before most people have even gotten through their morning commute. Wednesday, March 4th is officially day one of what meteorologists are calling the appetizer, round a level 2 slight risk of severe weather already posted from Dallas all the way north through Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Fort Smith, western Arkansas, and up into Missouri just south of St. Louis. And if Wednesday feels like a warm-up, that is exactly what it is. Because Thursday and Friday are a completely different animal. The Wednesday storm setup is driven by a shortwave trough moving through, combined with surface heating breaking through the cloud cover in the afternoon, and when that happens, convective available potential energy levels of 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram are expected to be available, which in plain terms means the atmosphere has loaded up a serious amount of fuel, and the storms that fire Wednesday evening are going to mean business. The main hazards. Wednesday are damaging hail up to ping pong ball to golf ball size and wind gusts that can flatten trees and knock out power. A tornado or two cannot be ruled out, particularly west of Fort Smith and south and east of Oklahoma City, where the surface moisture is richest, and storms are going to fire around 5 to 6 in the evening and push east through Jonesboro and into the Louisville, Kentucky area overnight. Also, on Wednesday, the flash flooding side of this does not get nearly enough attention. Training thunderstorms are expected between Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati tonight. And when storms keep firing over the same corridor repeatedly, those creeks and streams fill up fast. The flash flood bullseye for Wednesday night runs from Dallas up through Shreveport, Little Rock, Springfield, Missouri, and then from Indianapolis to Cincinnati. Dallas today is 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit with severe thunderstorms arriving this afternoon. And evening hail and wind gusts are the lead hazard. Fort Worth at 68 to 76 degrees Fahrenheit with the same severe risk. Austin at 72 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit with scattered severe storms likely. San Antonio at 78 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and warm in the entire I-35 corridor from San Antonio to Dallas is sitting in that warm, unstable air mass that is the fuel source for every storm system this week. Oklahoma City at 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit with severe thunderstorms possible. Wednesday, hail and damaging winds as the main concerns. Tulsa at 62 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit with a severe storm threat. Fort Smith at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, squarely in the slight risk zone. Texarkana at 70 degrees Fahrenheit with severe storms, and Little Rock at 68 degrees Fahrenheit, sitting at the edge where severe weather and flooding risk overlap simultaneously, which is the combination that gives emergency managers the most trouble. Drop your city in the comments right now and tell us what it looks like outside. Are you in the severe weather zone watching the sky? Are you dealing with rain and flooding concerns? Or are you somewhere quiet and dry watching all of this from a distance? We read these by region every single day. And cities that check in with enough responses get a dedicated local segment in tomorrow's update. Your comment genuinely shapes what we cover next. Nashville at 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit today with thunderstorms possible. Memphis at 68 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit and warm with storm chances. Louisville at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit with showers and possible storms. Birmingham at 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit and mild, and the Tennessee Valley and Mid-South are sitting in that corridor where Wednesday's activity fizzles. But the setup for Thursday and Friday loads right back up behind it. It is going to feel like a revolving door of storm systems this week. Kansas City at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit today with showers and possible thunderstorms. St. Louis at 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit with storms possible. Springfield. Missouri at 60 degrees Fahrenheit sitting right on the severe weather edge. Wichita at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit with rain chances, and both Kansas City and Wichita need to keep a close eye on Thursday and Friday specifically, because the storm track for both of those days puts them right in the northern fringe of the most organized severe weather zone. Chicago at 40 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit today with cloudy skies and showers. Possible thunderstorms later. Indianapolis at 45 to 52 degrees Fahrenheit with rain. Likely Columbus at 42 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit with rain showers. Cincinnati at 48 to 58 degrees Fahrenheit with showers, and the entire Ohio Valley is dealing with a slower, wetter day today. But the flooding risk here is accumulating quietly. Every round of rain this week adds to saturated ground that has less capacity to absorb the next round. Detroit at 38 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit with rain and snow showers. Cleveland at 40 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit with rain. Pittsburgh at 40 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit with rain. Likely Buffalo at 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit with snow showers. And 1 to 3 inches possible. Minneapolis at 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit with light snow possible, and the northern tier and Great Lakes are cold, wet, and quiet today. But keep an eye on the extended forecast, because the pattern discussion for mid-March could bring this region right back into the conversation in a significant way. Washington, D.C. at 40 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit with rain likely and breezy. Baltimore at 40 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit with rain and drizzle. Philadelphia at 38 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit with rain and possible light ice. New York City at 38 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit with rain changing to wintry mix and light accumulations possible. Boston at 35 to 42 degrees Fahrenheit under a winter advisory with a rain and snow mix, and the whole I-95 Northeast corridor is dealing with a raw, gray, and slippery Wednesday that has nothing to do with severe weather, but everything to do with making sure you are treating every bridge as a suspect. Out west, the picture is completely different. Los Angeles at 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and sunny San Diego at 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and pleasant Phoenix and Mesa. Arizona at 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and dry Las Vegas at 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, and sunny Denver at 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and mostly sunny with some wind. And the western warmth and that big ridge of high pressure sitting over the west coast is actually the engine driving the severe weather setup on the other side of the country. That ridge is what is pumping Gulf moisture north. Seattle at 48 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit with rain. Portland at 50 to 56 degrees Fahrenheit with rainy periods. Sacramento at 62 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And mostly sunny San Francisco at 55 to 62 degrees Fahrenheit with some fog. Boise at 48 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And the Pacific Northwest energy rolling off the western mountains this week feeds directly into the storm systems that are going to take aim at the plains on Thursday. And Friday, your rain in Seattle is connected to their tornadoes in Oklahoma. Thursday, March 5th is when the storm train reloads and shifts westward into the high plains West Texas, the Texas Panhandle including Amarillo and Lubbock, southwestern Kansas, and western Oklahoma move into the crosshairs, and Thursday is driven by a much more robust trough moving in from the west compared to Wednesday's shortwave, which means the atmosphere on Thursday is working with more horsepower across the board. Thursday's spark plug is the dry line, a sharp boundary where dew points jump from near nothing to 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit as you move east, and when that dry line sharpens up and pushes over Amarillo, Lubbock, and the Panhandle in the late afternoon. It acts as a forcing mechanism that launches explosive thunderstorms almost instantly. This is a classic supercell setup, and monster hail is the primary concern, with some tornadoes possible as well. If you are in the Texas Panhandle, Amarillo, Lubbock, Wichita Falls, western Oklahoma, or southwestern Kansas, Thursday evening is the specific time window when you need your radar app open, your county-level alerts turned up, and your shelter plan ready to go. This is not Wednesday's entry-level setup. This is a step up in organization and intensity, and it deserves to be treated differently. Friday. March 6th is the main event of the week, and the Storm Prediction Center's 30% probability area already posted for Friday is as high as they go on extended range outlooks. The bullseye currently sits from Oklahoma City north through Kansas City and into northwestern Missouri, and forecasters are already saying out loud that more times than not, when they see a 30% area this far out, the final risk level ends up higher than enhanced. The Friday setup is what meteorologists describe as a classic, highly dynamic spring setup, a 60 to 80 knot mid-level jet max ejecting off the base of the trough and flinging warm, moist Gulf air far to the north, and that kind of upper-level wind speed is not something you see every day. It is the ingredient that turns ordinary thunderstorms into organized supercells capable of producing long-track tornadoes and destructive winds. Of that dry line, there is a wide-open warm front that will move into the area and bring a chance of showers and thunderstorms of that dry line. There is a wide-open warm sector loaded with deep Gulf moisture, and once those supercells fire in the afternoon, they will eventually congeal into a squall line that carries the damaging wind threat well into Friday night. This is a nocturnal severe weather threat too, not just an afternoon and evening event. Dallas and Fort Worth Friday is the day to treat most seriously out of the entire week. Enhanced risk or higher is the floor for your area. Friday, not the ceiling 3 days in a row of severe weather starting Wednesday, with Friday as the headliner, and the nocturnal squall line means the threat does not end at sunset. It keeps going through the overnight hours when most people have already let their guard down and gone to bed. Here is the community check-in for this week if you are in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, or anywhere in the Ohio Valley flooding corridor right now. Drop your city and tell us which of these days has you most locked in. Wednesday's opener, Thursday's Panhandle supercell setup, or Friday's potential major outbreak, and if you are outside the storm zone. Tell us what it looks like in your city, and we will pull those reports into tomorrow's geographic breakdown. Saturday is the part of this week that does not get enough airtime. The European model is showing a severe weather line on Saturday that stretches across 14 states from Texas and Louisiana through Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. And that is a footprint that reaches cities most people do not think of as tornado country on a typical March weekend. The Saturday European setup shows a frontal line much larger than Wednesdays or Thursdays, potentially bringing worse severe weather in terms of geographic coverage, even if the peak intensity is somewhat lower. And then Sunday continues with isolated severe weather from the Ohio Valley back into South Texas, so from Wednesday through Sunday. This is a 5-day parade of storm systems, and the storm train does not stop until at least Monday. Now, flooding is the quiet story running underneath every single one of these severe weather days, and it deserves its own spotlight. Round after round of heavy rain is going to roll over the same corridor from Oklahoma City to Dallas, Shreveport, Little Rock, Springfield, and then up toward Indianapolis and Cincinnati. And the flooding threat here is not about one big rain event. It is about the cumulative effect of 5 days of repeated soaking. Here is the math wave. 1 saturates the soil completely by Thursday morning. Wave 2 hits Friday on ground that is already full wave. 3 arrives Saturday on ground with 0 capacity left and by the weekend. Every inch of rain goes directly sideways into creeks and rivers instead of soaking in local streams that looked fine Wednesday are going to look completely different by Sunday morning. The cities sitting in the deepest part of the flooding corridor need to hear this clearly, Dallas. Shreveport, Little Rock, Fort Smith, Springfield, Missouri, Bloomington, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati are all inside the zone where repeated rounds of heavy rain are going to stack up. Check your local creek and river levels today. Not Friday when the water is already moving, and make sure your flash flood alerts are separate from your severe thunderstorm alerts and both are turned on. Here is the part of this forecast that the headlines are not covering yet. The Storm Prediction Center has labeled days 5, 6, and 7 on their extended outlook as predictability too low, not potential too low, but predictability too low. And that specific wording means the forecasters are eyeballing severe weather risks on every single one of those days, but cannot yet pin down where the bullseye lands. The setup they are watching most closely beyond this week is around Tuesday and Wednesday. March 10th and 11th, the European model is showing a 991 millibar low developing over Michigan on March 11th, with Arctic air pouring in from the northwest, while a large area of warmth and humidity sits ahead of the cold front. And when you combine winter-strength jet stream speeds with that level of moisture contrast, you get very high-end severe weather potential. And here is where the European and the GFS are barely reading from the same script. The European says the pattern flip happens around March 12th and 13th. Going from extreme warmth to Arctic cold, the GFS says, hold your horses, that the warmth holds through the 16th, and the real cold does not arrive until around the 18th and 19th, and that 5 to 6 day difference in timing is not a small disagreement. It completely changes the forecast for tens of millions of people. The European model's version of mid-March is genuinely historic-looking temperatures running 30 to 40 degrees above normal this weekend, followed by temperatures running 30 to 40 degrees below normal by the 13th. That is a 60 to 80 degree temperature swing inside of 1 week, and the meteorologist who flagged this said he has never seen anything like it in years of daily model analysis. Take that for what it is worth. The GFS version is less dramatic but still significant. It shows the warm air making a quick comeback even after the cold front arrives, limiting the Arctic air intrusion, and keeping the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast mostly snow-free, while the West accumulates dramatic mountain snowpack. The GFS basically says spring wins the arm wrestle. The European says winter gets one more serious punch in. What both models agree on completely, and this matters, is that the warmth this week is real. It is coming, and it is going to be dramatic. 20 to 30 degrees above normal temperatures are confirmed for the heart of the Ohio Valley and Southeast by Friday through the weekend. Nashville, pushing toward the mid-70s, Atlanta into the upper 70s, and New York City potentially touching the upper 60s by early next week. That warmth is locked in, regardless of which model wins the mid-March argument. But here is the wrinkle the European is specifically flagging: that the warmth actually intensifies even further right out ahead of the incoming cold front before it collapses warmest just before it gets coldest is exactly the kind of pattern that catches people flat-footed, especially those who see a 70-degree Fahrenheit day in Chicago or New York in mid-March and think winter is completely finished. It may not be, depending on which model is right. Miami at 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit and mostly sunny Orlando at 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit and warm Tampa at 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Jacksonville at 72 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Atlanta at 62 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, with mild conditions and only a chance of showers. Charlotte at 58 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy skies in the southeast, and Florida are the quiet corner of the country this week, holding on to that ridge of high pressure that keeps them out of the storm zone while everything else goes sideways. Denver at 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit today, and mostly sunny Colorado Springs at 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, Albuquerque at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, and sunny El Paso at 68 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and dry Tucson and Phoenix at 72 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Southwest and Rockies are in the calm zone today. But Denver specifically sits right at the edge where the Friday system's cold back door could produce accumulating snow on the western and northern fringe of that 999 millibar low. Honolulu at 82 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny with light showers. Anchorage at 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit with cold and possible snow. And Fargo at 35 degrees Fahrenheit with cold conditions and the full national temperature range today from Anchorage to San Antonio at 84 degrees Fahrenheit is running over 60 degrees on the same Wednesday morning, which is the signature of a pattern stretched to its limits in both directions simultaneously. Oklahoma City and Tulsa. I want to address you both directly because you are in the severe risk zone for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the cumulative fatigue of a multi-day severe weather sequence is real. People get through day 1 and day 2 and let their guard down right before day 3 turns out to be the biggest. Friday is the day with the highest ceiling of all 3, and it deserves fresh attention, not tired attention. If you are in Phoenix at 75 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny, or Miami at 80 degrees Fahrenheit and gorgeous, or Los Angeles at 70 degrees Fahrenheit and perfectly pleasant, this week might feel like it has absolutely nothing to do with you. But somebody you know in Dallas or Little Rock or Cincinnati is watching this forecast very carefully right now, and sharing this video with them gives them 24 hours of advance notice that could make a real difference in how prepared they are. Before we wrap up, we especially want to hear from the cities and towns that national forecasts tend to skip over: the Missouri Ozarks, rural Arkansas, the Texas Panhandle, eastern Oklahoma, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, and the small Ohio Valley communities that sit between the major cities. Drop your city in the comments and tell us what the ground looks like right now. Creek levels, how saturated it feels. What the sky is doing, that ground level intel helps us pinpoint tomorrow's most vulnerable spots. Here is what is riding on tonight's model runs. The overnight data is going to sharpen the Wednesday severe corridor and give us the first meaningful read on whether Friday upgrades from enhanced risk to something higher. And the forecaster language right now is that more times than not. A 30% extended range area ends up exceeding the enhanced risk level. So tonight's runs are going to tell us whether Friday is already at the top of the scale or whether there is still room to climb. Tonight's runs are also going to start resolving the March 10th through 12th severe outbreak question. Right now, the SPC is saying predictability too low on days 5, 6, and 7, which means they are watching real signals but cannot pin the bullseye yet. And if the European and GFS models start converging on the same solution for that window, we are going to be talking about a potential back-to-back severe weather week that would be genuinely unusual even by active March standards. Friday is the main event with the highest. Friday is the main event with the highest ceiling. Saturday spreads the threat across 14 states. And the flooding story runs underneath all of it every single day. Don't be scared. Be squared away. Check your alerts. Check your creek levels. Know your shelter plan before Wednesday evening. And we will see you back here tomorrow with the sharpest picture yet.